And we're live. Welcome to episode 6 of the Jumpsuit Utopia Picard stream. Today we're talking about... Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Welcome to episode 6 of the Star Trek Picard stream. Today we have the core crew. We have Tom from Alpha to Omega. Say hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
And we have Esri from Swampside Chats.
Oh, hello. I'm a Rubik's Cube with a 10-year dissertation on value theory in the middle.
And it's me, Sophie. I do Transgress Revolution, and I will have been on the From Alpha to Omega reading series. I unfortunately will probably not be on the premiere episodes.
A pity.
Rip. Yeah.
Hey, sometimes Marxists have to work. It's just how it is.
It do be that way sometimes.
You need to increase your productivity.
Yeah.
What? Marxists have to work? That doesn't make any sense. Aren't you supposed to be like socialist intellectuals from outside the proletariat? What are you doing?
Just drinking beer and spending all my time in the British Library.
That's right. That's right, babe.
I was wondering what the smell was there.
I think that British Library.
Yeah, I'm drinking the British Library. So today we are talking about episode 6, The Impossible Box. It is Impossible Box. Ooh.
So wait, is this a box that's made of like soy meat or something? And it tastes like real box, but it's actually soy.
That's what my box is. Yeah.
Yeah, the Impossible Box is just trans girl genitalia.
This is
Anyway.
Impossible Box.
So that's what we think. I don't know. That's what us two think. Tom, I'm sure that didn't come to mind.
Come to what? Am I technically like allowed to laugh at these jokes? Because I feel like I'm turfed out or something.
I mean, I bestow permission on you to laugh at these jokes.
We're giving you the T card right now.
They're my jokes. How are you not? It's transphobic to not laugh at these jokes, Tom.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's what it is. It's called a T card. Is that it?
She just made it up. It works for me.
Works for me.
Card carrying trans.
It sounds like something you use like to get around the metro in like Toronto.
Yeah. In Boston, the tube or whatever, they call it the T, basically. Yeah. That's the thing.
Oh my god, I'm dying. Oh my god. Okay, let me just share this video. Okay. Promoting my stream live on stream. Anyway. Yes. So we're talking about the Impossible Box. I really like this episode. This was much more psychological of an episode. All my notes are psychology based. And that could very well be because I'm a psych undergrad, but I think this episode really invites it more than previous episodes. So, jumping right into it, getting balls deep into that Impossible Box. Sochi. I'm not gonna let that joke go. We start with a dream sequence. We have a little babby Soji, all scared. It's all thundery and raining, and she has a cute little stuffed animal, which I want. I'm afraid my dog would chew it up if I get that thing, but I want it. And little babby Soji walks into her. Little babby Soji walks into the back and where her dad is working, and her dad yells at her, and she wakes up. And Narek is there. And one of the things I first noticed on my second rewatch after seeing the whole thing through is that in Sochi's bedroom, there's a wooden figure that you pose to do drawing and a wooden figure of a hand. And that is really foreshadowing what is to come. And Narek is immediately really interested in the dream, and Narek kind of realizes that since Soji's having this reoccurring nightmare, this might be a way to get the information he needs without activating her.
Yeah, vindication for Sigmund Freud all these years later. Dream analysis does actually do something. Good job.
All these years later. Anywho, so there's a theme of cognitive dissonance that I found in this episode. The obvious place in this theme is with these dreams. And so there's a scene later on with Narek and Lieutenant Rizzo. By the way, I just gotta say, I love how Narek just slaps her hands away, like he's like kind of done with her shit by this point.
Yeah. Like she says, like, "Oh, you want to have little weird, robot children, like half android freak babies with her, and you have a family. Will you fall in love with an android?" Like that's when he's like, "Fuck off!" Like,
yeah,
get away from me. Like,
and I think this episode kind of puts a damper on my theory that Narek is going to turn and side with Soji. That doesn't mean there isn't still a chance for that at this point, but it's looking less and less likely, especially since we got 3 more episodes or whatever.
What with the assassination attempt and all?
Yeah, what with assassination attempt and all. So maybe that theory is wrong. Maybe.
He did have tears in his eyes when he was doing it. He was sad about assassinating her.
He was sad. I think he actually did love her, and but Rom's got to do what a Rom's got to do.
True facts.
Anyway, no more rom-coms, speaking of which, so you can breathe easy, Tom.
Good.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's a land full of impossible boxes.
So there's a scene with Rizzo and Narek, and Narek says that his theory is that Soji's dreams, Soji's nightmares, are a way of her programming to deal with a cognitive dissonance, right? Unlike Data, she doesn't realize that she is an android. She thinks she's a human. But her programming is such that she is always learning, autoheuristic, another psych term. She's always her brain is always looking for ways to be more efficient, more fast, always learning. And that's going to run up against clear evidence that she is not who she thinks she is. And so that tension has to be put somewhere in her android psyche. So it's put in her unconscious, in her dreams. And so if Narek can get at the truth that is within those dreams that is being blocked by her unconscious, then he thinks he can basically crack her code and understand, figure out what he needs to figure out about her without activating her. So that's like the obvious place where cognitive dissonance comes into play. But there's other places where, on a second rewatch, I noticed these similar themes coming out in other parts of the episode. I think a theme that's running through all of Star Trek Picard is Picard and other people who are Federation loyalists dealing with the cognitive dissonance of learning that their beloved Federation is involved in a conspiracy, and it's becoming incredibly anti-humanitarian and anti-democratic, or whatever the xeno-humanitarian, humanoiditarian.
Yeah, I like xeno-humanitarian because it reminds me of xenoanthropology or whatever. Like,
True.
I think it's cute. I don't know.
I've
Thoughts?
Sorry to butt in, but it's kind of like just one that hit me here. If all of these people are involved from the Federation in basically, we think, in a conspiracy, why would they be so anti the Romulans if the Romulans are so high up in this conspiracy? It seems like if they've seen the future and everybody's going to wipe out, and the Romulans are helping to wipe them out. Why would they have such an anti-Romulan feeling? That's kind of unexplained.
I think the answers are going to come towards the end of the season. I don't think we have all the information yet. My theory is that, remember, Vosh is a thing. It hasn't been brought up in a while. And Narek and Rizzo, basically what the audience knows is that they're not openly, but they're Tal Shiar, self-admittedly. But if they're not only Tal Shiar but Zhat Vash, it could be like a small section of Romulans are infiltrated into the Federation with the single-minded goal of stopping Soji and stopping all synths, but Soji in particular is a threat to them. We don't know why yet, but she's the destroyer according to their mythos. So that's my theory at this point. I don't think all of Romulus is behind plan fuck Romulus. But I think that the Vosh are so single-minded. Go ahead.
Excuse me. The Zhat Vash remind me of the portrayal of Section 31 in Deep Space Nine rather than in Discovery, where in Discovery it seems like Section 31 is a rather like coherent sort of organization in a way. Like in Deep Space Nine, they seem more like a conspiracy within Starfleet, and that's what I get from the Zhat Vash. They're more or less a conspiracy within this other, like, broader and more formal organization. And so, like, this could easily be happening with two relatively autonomous, like, elements within each organization that have developed a sort of, like, Cold War understanding with each other, where in order to, like, even though they're, I don't know, like, on some level they have to cooperate. Like, I think it probably goes deeper than a lot of things, a lot of cooperation in the Cold War, considering mutually assured destruction. But the overall point being is that, like, in the Cold War, both parties still found it necessary and useful to whip up, xenophobia against the other side. Like, even though there was sort of something that they were both getting out of the world order as it is. It's kind of a strained metaphor.
Yeah, but I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think that's basically what I'm thinking is happening. It's one section, a conspiracy within both broader organizations, a conspiracy within Starfleet, and a conspiracy within a Tal Shiar, who are working together for the single-minded purpose of stopping synths. There's an anti-synth kind of conspiracy going on, and I'm still positing that they might be right still, and they're not handling it the right way. But we don't know. Like, what the fuck is the destroyer?
I don't know. I have my
humanist.
humanist. I'm clutching my humanist pearls.
You shouldn't just kill her, right?
I'm not going to take some myth over our chance to be creators, as in some grand Promethean fashion. You can't take this away from me.
I'd say wipe her out, smash her skull with a big iron press.
Save Soji. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there could be something in her program that's dangerous, but you should help her, not just murk her. Jeez.
I was watching a thing about how to make what did they call it? Plywood today. You should put her into one of those plywood making machines. They're vicious. That'll do her.
Now, Tom, so you're anti-Picard here. You feel like the conspiracy is right?
Yeah. I'm full on. My favorite character is Narek's sister. That's what I'm saying.
Really? That's actually quite surprising, because I think she's like a paper thin character.
Yeah, that's the way I like them. Paper thin.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. If you like 1D girls, I guess, like, Narek's sister is a great character. Which, by the way, every Romulan we've ever known, we have no idea what their names are. Canon. Like, Tomalak, who the fuck knows what his name is?
Tomalak. Brilliant.
Yeah, like, no idea.
No, that's
I
true.
can't think of any more classical Romulans.
So anyway, there's that part of cognitive dissonance, and then there is. All right, hold on one second.
Yes.
Out. Oh my god, I got a doggo attack.
All right, you can take on the doggo attack. I'll kick it up with cognitive dissonance.
No, it's he just got out.
Oh.
When my door was closed, he just busted his way in.
Well, a small doggo just pushed their way in. What a cute.
Yeah, I mean I don't think my door was properly closed, so but now that the other dog is out with him, he should be well distracted.
Dog chat.
Dog chat. Anywho. So I also realized that Girardi must be feeling a lot of cognitive dissonance in killing somebody that she loves in the form of Bruce Maddox. Since Tom wasn't here last time, I wanted to get a Tom reaction shot about the Girardi betrayal.
Well, I don't know. All I can say is I was, since the debate with Zizek, Jordan Peterson has been on the lowdown for quite a while. I know he's gone into rehab. I didn't expect that he was actually like learning to be an actor. Man.
Like, you think Bruce Maddox, the new Bruce Maddox actor, looks like Jordan Peterson?
Seriously, Jordan Peterson. Like I say they actually probably modeled it on, Data. Well, I didn't expect Data to come here and have a child. No, it's but I was taken aback by the plot twist. But like when they showed it, they had one bit where they showed her like listening over to something that Picard was saying. And once I saw her listening, I just went, all right, that's it. She's she's going to kill him, so she's in on the plot, which is kind of good. And, hopefully I don't know. That was a good plot twist. That was an actual plot twist. Did anybody see that coming?
Hell no.
I didn't even see it coming when she was sitting there listening to Picard. I wasn't sure why she was so distant, but
Same.
Oh, I knew immediately when she was doing that. I was like, yeah, that's it. She's actually, they never, like in any of these things, like if they don't show you actually killing the character's not dead. If they ever show somebody listening in on something, they're a spy. They don't show anything extemporaneously. They should just throw in random ones just to fuck with our heads, but they really never ever do that.
Yeah, when you have like this little amount of time to work with versus, I don't know, 26 seasons of fucking whatever, that might not even matter.
I'm telling you, that's why, like, when they zoomed in on the back of the robot's head and you could see the hair, that's why I'm sticking with it.
Oh no!
I mean,
it's all coming true.
You might be right. You saw this coming. I was blindsided until she actually did it.
Me too. So I mean, like, I guess another example of cognitive dissonance or whatever is Girardi being like, I probably shouldn't fuck Rios, but I kind of feel like fucking Rios. Like,
did you not think that was slightly like she's being duplicitous? I think she's being duplicitous. I think she's going to be revealed as a lot more duplicitous than people think now. Like, if you think about it, like, it makes sense that she would want to start muddying waters if she's going to have to do things that are underhand at some stage. She's going to have to, like, get somebody to think, no, it couldn't possibly be her.
I don't know if I agree. Here's why. In the preview for the next episode, you hear a line of Girardi yelling, because what's made clear is that Picard, Soji get away. We don't know what happens to Eleanor. And then the La Serena is like under attack by the Borg cube itself and a bunch of Romulans. And they're like freaking the fuck out because they know they're fucked. And there's a line where you hear Dr. Girardi yelling, "They don't want us, they want her." And so I think that she's gonna come clean. Maybe not about killing Dr. Maddox, but she's gonna like tell them what Soji's really about. She's gonna tell them what Commodore O. And she's probably gonna make the case that we should cooperate with the Romulans and tell them, because they know where Picard and Soji went. She tell Shi'ar where they went. They'll let us go. Because fuck that bitch. That's what she's gonna do. I think. Why else would she be saying that?
She even said something along those lines, not exactly this episode, and it's a line that makes Rios and Raffi. It's a line that makes Rios and Raffi just kind of do a take at her, like, "Whoa, what? Like, where did that come from?" Like, it's
what was the line?
I don't remember the line, but she has a line that turns their heads. That seems uncharacteristically grim and like a little off for like what you would expect from Girardi up to this point. I don't recall exactly.
That's gonna bug me.
Tis a pity I didn't do better research. Anyway, Sophie, I think you're going in the right direction. I think that may be what's ahead, but I don't know. Like, okay. If Girardi didn't just catch a body last episode, I would have thought the shit with Rios is creepy. But because Girardi catches a body last episode, I agree with Tom. Like, I think that, like, she probably has an agenda and is playing wounded animal, like, oh, like, you could just, creep on me because I want to fuck you right now because my judgment is impaired.
What do you mean by creepy? And also, like, what do you mean by, like, so how is it that she's both gonna like come clean next episode, but also she's being duplicitous?
Like, if she didn't just catch a body, right? If she didn't just kill somebody, and there wasn't this element to her character where it seems like she's, she might be like a lot more than she looks like. Because you have me like mostly convinced that she is basically what she looks like. She's basically like a little boo who just caught a body, just killed somebody recently, like, and has like started going down a path, but has not been, much of like a killer instinct kind of person in general. Like, mostly convinced, but this episode I think is playing with your expectations. Because on the one hand, all right, bracket the whole, murder thing that she did. I would think that even though they're all explicit about the power dynamics involved and the, potential lapse in judgment, like that what Rios is doing is a little skeevy to me. Like, that's, what I would think of that, like, in normal circumstance. A little creepy, like a little... I don't know if you've ever seen... Yeah.
I kind of disagree.
I don't know if you've ever seen Wedding Crashers, the, frat boy movie, but there's a character at the end who's like a funeral crasher and like goes to funerals to get girls. And like that kind of
great move.
Like,
oh God. Tom,
like, I was just like, oh Christ. Like, if I didn't know that Girardi just killed a man, you know what I mean? Like, I would feel like a little, I don't know, like, I would feel like, I don't know.
Like, think about it. If Girardi, right, killed the guy who she used to be shagging, right, and she wasn't that cut up, she's just going to like shag some other bloke. It's like, I think you'd be a little bit more devastated.
It's complicated. Like, it's complicated. Like, she could be just in a vulnerable position and looking for a grief fuck. That's totally possible.
Yeah, so I got a lot to say about all of this. So, okay. I think what Rios did this episode, I think this episode did a lot to humanize him, actually. I feel the exact opposite. Even outside of the context, even if we didn't know that Girardi's ex died or Girardi's killed him, if we didn't know that, I think what we saw on screen with him was something that was much less narcissistic than what we've seen before. Not just with Girardi, but with his friendship with Raffi too. See,
with Raffi, I think he looks good.
The reason why I think that with Girardi though is that because she just kind of she just leans in and kisses him, and then the moment she's hesitant, she doesn't say anything. She just kind of hesitates, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. And he gives her an out, and she takes it, and then she doesn't take it.
Yeah, but if somebody says, "I'm making a mistake, I'm going to regret this," more or less, that's a red flag to me.
But people say that kind of stuff all the time, don't they? And they get together and they, it's kind of stuff they say.
But that's just where I fall there, and it's maybe people feel differently about this, but he's being a ship's captain, and he's I don't know. There's all kinds of power dynamics there. They're all explicit. Girardi is an agent in the situation. She's not just a passive victim. She's definitely actively seeking validation.
And I think that's the thing, is that she knows, it's more honest. She knows she's just getting fucked to deal with the grief and the cognitive dissonance. And the other thing I wanted to say is that this episode is a lot about bad coping mechanisms too, right?
Yeah, right.
We see this with Girardi, right? She's dealing with grief of her ex-boyfriend dying, also murdering her ex-boyfriend. Well, she's dealing with this grief, and she immediately goes to fuck the first person that she wants to fuck, and that's Captain Rios. And
if you care about that person, do you fuck them in that state?
No. I mean,
that's all.
Yeah, I think as far as I don't think Rios actually is in love with Girardi. That's not what I'm trying to say. I guess what I'm trying to say is that what this episode does, the narcissist and the existentialist, quote, pseudo existentialist edgelord we see at the beginning of the season, I don't think he would give a fuck about fucking consent at all. He wouldn't hesitate at all. That's all I'm trying to say. The fact that he was "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she's like, "No." Yeah, and he's like, "Well, all right." Okay, maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe I'm an asshole.
No, you're not an asshole. I'm just, I don't know, marking out basic, technically consensual from enthusiastically consensual, and I'm also bracketing the fucking murder grief here, because the fact that she just caught a body last episode makes her seem much more dangerous. Makes it seem much more likely that Tom is right, that poor her, she must be so vulnerable. Actually, she did murk that guy that she was fucking before. Maybe this is part of a deeper move to try to sway Rios to betray Picard, like you're saying.
Do you
understand now?
Okay, I can see that actually. Yeah.
Do you understand now why it's called Impossible Box?
Is Girardi trans? I hope somebody's trans. It's the future.
No, we saw gender binary baby Emporium last episode. I highly doubt it.
Yeah, but that was Neckbeard Paradise. Can somebody give me an Andorian?
Right? God.
Just give me one Andorian.
No, give me a Trill who has a host who's also literally transgender. That host is transgender.
Well, that would be great.
Right?
We're gonna pile this allegory on top of a literal thing. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
just get it all in there. Get it all in that Impossible Box.
Put a hat on top on another hat. Put a box on another box. Okay.
Anyway, so we mentioned Raffi earlier. There's the aspect of Raffi dealing with the grief of losing her family, and she relapses in a big way this episode. She still gets the goods. She still gets the diplomatic credentials that Picard needs to get inside the artifact, but she's high as fuck and she's drunk. And
I have something to say about this, about the portrayal of black people on the show. It's like, I think it's pretty dodgy. They've got what's her name again? That was drunk. What's her name? I always forget. Raffi, right? She's obviously playing an alcoholic crackhead of some type, right? Her son is an angry young man, angry black young guy from the last episode. The only other black character that's in it was the guy who didn't know Picard. Do you remember was it episode 2 when he went to go and ask for a ship and the guy was at the desk and he was like, what's your name, sir? And Picard's like, what the hell? You don't know who I am? So the only 3 black people we've had is an addict, an angry young man, and a moron. There's also the alien. Who?
The alien in the very first scene. What's the alien?
The Zahian.
Who got shot?
That gets fridged right away.
Within 2 seconds of the start
of the whole series.
What about the interviewer that? What about the FNN interviewer that pisses off Picard by being unscrupulous?
Yeah, and Tanya,
oh my God.
There is not an actual the most developed or real of any of the characters is a crack addict. That's kind of dodged. That's pretty that's undeniably played out. Compare it to Deep Space Nine when we were doing the episodes on that.
Yeah,
we talked about how all the black characters were positive, and here they're all just with modern tropes on them.
Wow, the 90s Trek, the 90s is better. Wow. Well, I'd never really put that all together.
There isn't that much aspirational in this show. That's something that's very different. But yeah, I mean, even when you take away that aspect, there's still not that many black characters, and the ones that are developed are, sort of I don't want to say Raffi's a total negative example because there's a redemption arc there. She's trying to get her shit together. This is, they're trying to make a real person and not just a TV dad, a space Carl Winslow, they're but yeah, I think the critique still stands even if you adjust for those things that I was just saying. It is, it's
Have they ever had a major character in any of the Star Treks that's been an alcoholic?
Pulaski?
Who's
Pulaski is arguably an alcoholic.
Who's Pulaski again? From
the Doctor from the second season of TNG.
What, the blondie one? Is that who it is? The woman?
She's the older Doctor who replaces Crusher for one season.
Okay, yeah. Was she an alcoholic?
Racist against Data.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was in with the Tashi Har. Does anybody talk about that?
Yeah, maybe that's why she hates synths.
Oh wow! I never realized. Maybe she's a Romulan agent this whole time.
Well, that's why they got rid of her and didn't say nothing between the second and third season. They're like, we found out she's a deep cover Romulan agent. Actually,
that's why they zoomed in on the back of her head quite a lot in some of those things.
No human could drink with Worf like that.
Do you think she fucked Worf? Real talk. Okay.
My vote is yes. My vote is yes. That he was hella impressed that she knew about the Klingon tea ceremony. He was like, okay.
Let's be honest. Worf would shag anything with a pulse. If there was a big lump of bacteria with a hole in it, Worf would jump on it.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Worf is
Worf
Worf
has...
No, he's
Worf Worf has rather conservative sexual morality, actually, like consistently throughout TNG and Deep Space Nine.
What are you talking about? Himself and the other like
Yes.
what about the himself and the other Klingon? We're both
Killer.
on the like on the bridge, and they're both kind of going, "Rawr," and they basically started like tearing into each other and nearly shagging each other right there in front of everybody.
The first time he has sex.
There was that episode, but
canonical. The first time he has sex with Kalar, he proposes to her immediately because that is Klingon tradition.
Yeah.
First of all, Worf was a virgin before that. Let's talk about that.
But I'm talking about a big lump of bacteria with a hole in it.
He would propose to that lump of bacteria because that's what trad Klingons do, Tom.
No.
Anyway, we're off the rails now.
Worf was hella trad. Like, there's an episode where he goes to Risa and he joins like the moral majority, basically. Like,
I bet you're glad I'm back this week, huh?
I mean, it's been funny at least. Anyway, so go ahead.
The chat is hopping with this, and I can 100% agree. The clapping when she finished that call, and her lifelong friend says, "Never call me again."
That was
so brutal. It's so brutal, and I've of course been a Picard stan, like trying to bolster up Picard, even though he's been a dick. Like, but that scene in particular really gives credence to the interpretation that Picard is so ruthlessly instrumental because, I have to save the universe. I'm a big, great man doing a good thing for my good friend. I'm trying to save robot life, that, he's very ruthlessly utilitarian with the people around him, including Raffi, who he's hurt so much.
Yeah, that was, I don't know if the writers intended that too. That's the fucked up part. Like,
I think they must have intended that because they portrayed her in a pathetic relapse. You know what I mean? And like getting blacklisted by an old friend, and he starts clapping. It's very insensitive.
Yeah, I think he's definitely like, and she makes a comment about Picard's ego later on. Like, I think it's very explicit. Like the whole season, like. We picked it up early on, and it's getting worse because he's never been portrayed in this. Like Picard has always been like a moral, upright guy, but the thing is, he's always been in charge, and he's always been the captain. So when he would make these hard moral decisions, it was about his ego in a lot of the cases. You know what I mean? Looking back, you could say, "Oh, that's his fucking ego at play," but here it's just stripped bare. It's pure ego a lot of the time.
Can we echo the quote? Can we echo the quote that Raffi says about Picard?
Yes, it's in the notes.
I love this quote. It's every part of that guy that's not ego is rampaging id. So translation from the Freudian: this man has no conscience. He has no so-called superego. Everything that isn't a reflection of his self is just raging, uncontrolled, like nameless animal desire.
It's true. It's
like,
true.
This Picard is very unlike the Picard that we know. And it was always hinted that when he was young, he was a bit of a Kirk, really. Like, there's a TNG episode called Tapestry, which really makes that point, that if Picard hadn't been such a hot-headed dick during his teen years, that he would have been like a shitty science officer instead of a great captain, which has a little bit of a messed up moral, I think. But, like, there's always this like nod that he was once like an arrogant young man. Now he's an arrogant old man. And he's, certainly not as much of an exemplar in this show as he had been. And I think that's probably one of the things that Patrick Stewart wanted to do with the show is to try to, I hate to view it this way, but I think this is what's going on. To have maybe a conversation with, the Trump the Trumps of the world about, you know, what it's supposed to be what you're supposed to be doing by being a man, you know, like what being a good man is about, like in a world like this. Like, and I say man that way because it's supposed to be a discourse on a person, but of course it's also a discourse on being a de facto masculine person. Yes, a woman could be this, but the portrayal is all couched rather explicitly in terms of manhood.
I also think like how they display Picard not liking children as well says something about like, you know, like not having great fucking empathy about somebody else in some level.
Yeah, there is something about that ran throughout TNG, but like in TNG, no, he wasn't Riker. He wasn't up close and personal with the crew, but he cared about every life he encountered. Like,
But I think something Tom said earlier too, though, is that it's quite possible that all the greatness that Picard had in TNG was still just rampaging ego and id. Like, it was to further his own greatness. It just
misses how much superego was there. He had so much like tight butthole reflexive values, morals, justice, you know, like he had so much of that. And if someone just, you know, blew up the sun around his you know, superego, and there's none of that left and he's all ego and id, he's a fundamentally transformed character. That guy is like so much superego to the point where the id is like locked up and chained. You get a little bit of it in First Contact when he has a PTSD. He has PTSD. And it's the only time that he ever really lets go, except for a roll in the hay in one of the episodes after he gets assimilated with his brother. He's just like, you know, he just fucking breaks down. But even then, he hasn't like given in to this like rage. He hasn't given in to like desire. Even in Family, when he's articulating the grief of being assimilated and having been used to kill millions, like it was so controlled and dignified, you know, like the fact that was his response, it gave him even more dignity. If he didn't cry at all, if he didn't have a moment of despair from being assimilated, it would have made him a far worse character, like, and a far like less morally compelling character. But the kind of PTSD break that you see in First Contact is like a flash of this character. Like that, it's one of the first times that you really see who Picard is going to be in this series. And that's especially true with the way that they portray his PTSD with regards to the Borg in this episode. And it is so visually and like in the script that it's never explicitly said, but it's just so note for note depicted that you can't mistake it. Picard gets uncharacteristically hard line when it comes to the Borg. The Borg can't change. You know, he snaps when talking to Jurati about how the Borg can't fucking change. They just assimilate an entire civilization in a matter of hours. And then when he has to go to the cube, and because of the weird diplomatic snafu, he has to go alone, he is like literally flashing back to being assimilated. It's there's something about that trauma that has created this man instead of the Picard that we knew from TNG. The one that was superego driven, for better or for worse, clearly for better.
Yeah, no, that's actually all a really good point. I think to further your case too, the rest of the scenes with Picard walking around the Borg cube before he finds Soji, if you look carefully at his body language, he's hunched. He's like small. He's like kind of like he can't look anyone in the eye. He's just kind of like, it's all so uncharacteristic with Picard. The only other time I think I've seen Picard portrayed like that is in Tapestry. And that's not our Picard. That's the Picard. That's blue shirt Picard. That's, you know, mediocre science officer Picard.
Lieutenant junior grade.
Right. He doesn't carry himself with, you know, chest out, shoulders up, really full of confidence and with an air of authority. And even in this show, like, he doesn't walk around like a hunched over old man. But in that Borg cube, that's the oldest I've ever seen Patrick Stewart look. Like, he was a different man. And I think you're right. I think a combination of never fully dealing with what happened on the Borg cube, and then also his failure to save Romulans, to finish what he started with the evacuation. I think it kind of broke him, and I think he is just not the same person. And he, like I've said before, this is a show about Picard's regrets. This is a show about Picard's death, basically. And I think what we're seeing in this first season is that Picard is already dead in a spiritual sense,
Yeah, the Picard we knew essentially died with Data.
I think what Picard really regrets is not ever getting with Deanna Troy's mother.
I thought you were going to say Beverly Crusher, but no, you went with Lwaxana Troy.
Oh my god. Tom. Anyway.
Oh Lord.
I killed that flow.
Oh my god.
Do we need to talk about the Romulan walking meditation thing? I think, by getting at cognitive dissonance, we can more or less kind of...
I don't know. Yeah. Like, what did you think about that? I thought that was both kind of like, I don't know. I just found that it was very naffily written and acted out. That whole thing. It's like, oh no, now just come over here, walk this way. And it's like, and they're just like, he's going to like this sacred thing that no one has ever seen before. It's supposed to be like this sacred thing. He just goes, oh yeah, let's get this fucking robot in here. And I don't know, maybe he's trying to save the universe, but it felt very hamming. Like, it just felt, I don't know, it felt very like one of these kind of crummy episodes from like TNG or something, where they just make something up for one episode and throw it in.
I mean, there's so much of Star Trek canon that's made pretty much just to advance the plot. Like, this is one of those bits of canon. On the other hand, the editing in this sequence and like the effects and like the sort of kind of, I don't know, horror movie or thriller atmosphere that's being built with this whole thing, I found it very effective. I don't really like this genre of thing, but I appreciated what they did with it. If you're saying the writing is a little like meh and the acting is a little cheesy, I think I can agree with that. But it didn't really bother me because I thought it was payoff for all this like other bullshit that we've had to just sort of sit through. Like, we finally get the moment where Narek's approach pays off and works, as opposed to like Lieutenant Rizzo, quote unquote, like her approach is just, kill them and lose your chance to find like the rest of the synths, you know what I mean? And figure out how the synths are being made. It's kind of like not a great plan. It's kind of a silly, like, even from like a villain logic, that doesn't make that much sense. Like, as opposed to, Narek's like kind of weird, sleazy way of doing it. But like, he can actually, there's something about the vision where she sees like two moons or something and electrical storms. And then, Rizzo is going to like look up which planet it is. It's a strange credulity a little bit, but like, like, it was nice to see the payoff. And ultimately it would feel really new agey and stupid to me if this person wasn't an android. It makes sense that an android's dreams would be like this.
Yeah, they know it precisely. Oh yes, it's outside that shop. That's where I left my purse 4.5 years ago. I'll go back there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Well, lucid dreaming. Like, that's one of the things. It's a walking meditation, but it's also like a lucid dream.
Is that
the idea that a lucid dream would like you could hack a lucid dream to get like into real insights about your mind is like that's not necessarily humanistically true. And it's okay to me because we're talking about an android's brain, you know? But like lucid dreaming is probably more like free association, more than regular narrative kind of dreaming. Like, what are your thoughts on the lucid dreaming walking meditation, Sophia?
Yeah, I mean, I like the meditation room. I've been a practicing Buddhist at, certain points in my life. And definitely reminds me of that. It's probably one of the few times where they, portray Romulans as Asians and it isn't awful.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, it looked really beautiful in that meditation room. And I think the only way that kind of like, lucid dreaming as like, it only works in the context of her being an android, and that the function of that nightmare is to keep her from learning that she is an android. That information that her autoheuristic process, or whatever it's called, picks up on, that data that shows you're not a human, you're an android, has to go somewhere. And so you put that file in that dream, and it's not clear what's going on, and she can never quite get to it. Like the faceless father is that like probably the same thing as the mother AI, more or less, same basic program of like being like, stop, don't go over there. You aren't supposed to know this right now. I also wanted to, speaking of ego and id, I also wanted to touch on like what I found interesting in my second watch through was how shortly after that line that Raffi says about Picard being all ego and id, you get the scene of Soji confronting her mother on a phone call.
Oh.
Right? And she's like, what did she say? What she asked her mom something, and at first her mom seems completely normal. She's just like talking to her. She's like, aren't you supposed to be at work? You okay? And she's like, you seem really stressed out. You don't have to go to work. Go to. You should lay down and go to sleep. And Soji starts getting tired again. And this is right after she learns that every phone call she has lasts 70 seconds. And so she's like kind of freaking out about this, thinking like maybe my mom isn't real, which is like frightening thought. So she takes a fucking like scalpel or something, like a knife, and stabs herself in the hand to wake up. And then her mom, it gets really fucking horror movie really quick. Her mom just starts glitching out. She's like, you should go to bed. You should go to bed. And she's just like, what the fuck? And then she finally passes out. It was one of those horror things that like was subtle enough to actually like be cool. I really like that scene.
Yeah. I thought all the thriller shit going on in this episode really worked for me. They did stuff like that with the Borg Cube PTSD as well, which I thought it was kind of silly that they had Picard wander onto a walkway with no rails or something. You know what I mean? The Romulans probably would have installed rails by now there. Let's be honest. Like
Borg Cube is not OSHA approved. Also, are Romulans OSHA approved? I don't know about that. I feel like they'd be like, oh, if you fall, you're an idiot. Fuck you. Like,
well, just don't tell anybody.
Yeah, just keep it a secret.
I'm just saying they have like, a joint project with the Federation there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the Federation gets a little bit of a say on the guardrail situation.
Yeah, come on, Hugh. What the fuck? You're supposed to be the voice of Federation values here. Where's the OSHA? Where's the OSHA?
The guardrails?
Come on.
I guess Hugh just relies on there being all kinds of XBs checking out the bridge, being like, making sure nobody falls.
Maybe the Romulans keep a tight budget, and Hugh has to put all the budget into extracting implants and what have you. Also, I guess this wasn't universally true, but it kind of struck me that why is it that Seven of Nine and Picard? I guess I could see why Picard, because Picard wasn't assimilated for very long. But why is it that like Seven of Nine and like so many like the majority of the XPs look like really fucked up, like severely scarred after the implants are removed? And why is it that like Seven of Nine looks, or even Hugh comparative to Seven of Nine still looks like pretty scarred up, but
yeah, they didn't have their implants extracted and sold. They just had them left in.
oh, that makes sense. Which I also makes the case of like maybe, I mean, it's what Picard said is very true. Like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. In this scenario, and so if this is the only way they're going to get support for the reclamation project, then I guess like you have to remove the implants. But like,
I guess, but it's like chop shop XB situations, a little fucked up.
And it's clear that like they look a lot healthier and they look more normal, honestly, with the implants in. Like, like better to have an ocular implant than to have like fucking just flesh over your. Even the one guy who's like the dermal regenerator, like he had hair and the dermal regenerator like fixed all the scars, like he still had no fucking eye. I think I'd rather have the ocular implant, honestly. Just leave it in.
Yeah, but that's where because Hugh, in a lot of ways, is a very sympathetic character, and he's the first friendly face that you get, and it canonically makes perfect sense that Hugh would be like, oh my god, Jean-Luc Picard, I'll do whatever you're here for. I'm here for you, old friend. Makes perfect sense. But also like it's gotta mess with him that this is a really instrumental operation, and he's basically there to make sure there's a lot of resentment there, like that their queen is now Romulan.
Yeah, that was what I was just about to say.
Still in pretty much the same situation.
They're not even Federation citizens.
Yeah,
that part is
only he's a Federation citizen.
Right, that part is fucked up. I feel like the XPs should be given Federation citizenship.
They're slaves,
or they should at least like be allowed to apply for citizen or like refugee status or Federation citizenship. Like, come on, why can't they apply? Jesus.
The Federation needs to do a little, Civil War action here. Like,
yeah, where's the XP John Brown?
I don't know. Like, I think it's time.
It's time. So I wanted to jump to. I don't have this in my notes, but I kind of wanted to get into the next episode a little bit more. We talked about what Girardi says, but there's also an even more crucial part of that preview. The next episode is the episode where Picard goes to visit Riker and Troy. And I am stoked for this, but it seems like it seems like my prediction was like kind of right. It's not so much that Picard is. Well, actually, I bet Picard is wanted by this point. He uses diplomatic credentials to like get into a firefight with, Romulans basically, and Elnor, his buddy, killed a bunch of them, and and also he's like pounding around with the Sims, which is illegal. So
it's going to be construed as an act of war.
Yeah, it is. He's in deep shit, and I think he knows it. I think Riker knows it, and I wonder if he's because we don't know why he asked for the planet that he asked for. I bet you he asked for this planet because it's where Riker and Troy is. Because I was thinking, the only thing that didn't make sense about my theory of like Picard going to Riker after he's in deep legal trouble with the Federation is he wouldn't want to bring the feds to Riker's doorstep. So if he gets there by instant teleport thing that he used, there's no way to trace it.
Warp.
Yeah. There's no way to trace it, so nobody knows that he is there. you can't hang around there for long because when you're a fugitive, you don't want to hang out at like your BFF's house. You know, that's where they're going to look there eventually.
But as long as you take the Borg Queen Express, you can, like,
I mean, even then,
in, say hey, and then leave.
Yeah, exactly. You could say hey and leave.
It sounds like a shitty bus route, like in England. Take the Queen Express from London to Birmingham for $15.99.
The key word there is Borg. Okay, that's a mark of quality.
Have you seen how old she is? She's got to be Borg.
Oh my god.
That's not a cane.
About Kissinger.
Yeah, it's not a cane she walks around with now. It's like some kind of prosthetic, finger for a balance aid.
Wow, I'm learning new things.
Yeah, and Americans still find reasons to fetishize the Queen. Ugh.
Royal family. It would be pretty interesting if America had royal families, because then they would just be tabloid fodder, basically, right? Like
that's what our celebrities are. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I wonder. You see, the Canada aren't going to pay for what do you call it? Security for Prince Harry and Meghan now that they've moved to Canada. I wonder what the odds are that like some like crazy bastard's going to try and kill them. Probably reasonably high.
Okay, but like of all the royals to like go after, don't like the ones that left. Like
who's the least liked one? That they've been demonized the most, and who's ripped somebody out of the thing. It's like Meghan.
No, I guess from a conservative like
and she's
royalist stan kind of perspective, yeah. But like, I feel the opposite. Like, good on them for leaving the cult. Jesus. I guess it's the 21st century. We don't need fucking monarchs anymore. Kill them.
The Republicans are so sad about all this. Why is this a thing?
I don't think like communists are representative of the normal royal fans, though. You know what I mean? I don't think.
I know. Go figure.
Viewpoint. I think they should all be like, infected with some kind of Borg. What was those things they put into nanoprobes?
Nanobots.
Yeah. Nanobots. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The communists have their own traditions of monarchy. We just don't call it that.
No, it's true. I mean, Stalin. Nothing was more tributary than Stalin and his relationship to grain. Anywho, any other comments on Riker? I mean, I'm stoked. It's pretty concerning that Picard's in deep shit. I wonder what Riker and Troy are going to do about this. And it makes a lot more sense of the previews we've seen before this too. Like the previews are always like Riker's like kind of shocked to see Picard in a way that isn't just like, oh my god, you're here, hi friend. It's like, oh, you're here. Oh fuck. Yeah. All right, let's talk about this.
It's gonna be impacting.
Yeah, it is. They're obviously going to be really worried about him.
I'm ready. I'm ready for that Riker Troy like household. I want to see what they're like.
Yay!
All I want to see is like Riker's hairy chest again. That's what I want to see.
I know it's been years since we've had Riker chest. We need the DV. DVs are no longer in the Federation, and it just makes me sad.
It's true. As it turns out, not everything improves with time.
As it turns out, the Federation is corrupt. It's in line with the fucking Zhat Vash. Also, no deep Vs.
No deep Vs at all.
Where's Tasha Yar? She would be right. She'd be like beaming right now and from heaven.
What would Tasha have to say about all this?
Right.
What would Tasha do?
WWTD. Yeah. Anyway, my final thought. We're gonna call this episode the T card.
The T card.
Anywho, I want to pivot to.
Why the
comments
T
and
card? Why the T card?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
joke.
What?
I mean, it's a joke, but is it a representative joke about the episode?
The T
Yes.
card. But what? I don't understand it at all. I don't get to explain.
The joke we made at the very beginning.
Oh
We're
my
giving you the
God.
T card.
Oh, the T card. Yeah, sorry, totally gone. My brain. What is it? I don't know what I was thinking of. My God, excuse me.
It's representative because it's also a pun about tea.
Like tea?
Yeah.
Like,
I thought you were making a pun about Jean-Luc Picard, and there was Tea
both.
Card. It was Earl Grey. I was like, oh, Earl Grey, Tea Card.
It's both.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we can't call the joke we made at the beginning was Impossible Box. We can't call the episode Impossible Box. That's the name of these Picard episodes.
We call it Impossible Whopper.
It should.
Are we going to call it like vegan trans pussy? Like we can't call it that either.
How about like Impossible Fud?
Oh my God. I think we'll worry about all that later.
That's for future Sophie to worry about. I'm editing this one, I guess. So
yeah. So let's get to the comments. Do you know how to use the live comment system? It's one of my favorite things about this.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I know how to do it. Sophie's a regular ship's counselor. I don't know what brought that on, but maybe that was the amount of laughing I was doing at the beginning.
Maybe your psychology degree.
Oh yeah, I talked about my psych degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am disclaimer. I am not a licensed professional counselor. Get real mental help, and don't just listen to me make jokes about trans pussy.
Neither was Esri Dax. But she
was a licensed counselor.
Oh, was she licensed? Oh wait,
yeah.
She was an ensign. That's right.
But she was an ensign, but she was a counselor.
No. But wait, didn't she she hadn't graduated yet though? And Cisco was like, I think we're just gonna put you through if it's all the same to you.
Oh,
lieutenant. Right.
So technically, yes, she was a licensed counselor at the order of Picard, field promoted. Not Picard, Jesus, Cisco.
Cisco. Yeah. She was okay. Yeah, she was field promoted, but she
didn't graduate properly though. That's true.
She got the Dax upgrade, just being like, yeah, I'm pretty sure having 9 past lives will help you, understand shit. Anyway, let's move. We're at war, soldier. Oh, you're my friend. Okay.
Oh my God. So let's look at Pyro's theory. Pyro has a theory about why Girardi killed Maddox and the synths attacked Mars. Tashiar hacked the synths to attack the shipyard, and the suicide of the synth was its own way to get out of any further orders it could get. Oh, so it was a suicide to stop it from doing more. Okay. Interesting. After the ban, the hack was made into a biochemical agent that is now manipulating the doctor. Oh,
interesting.
Huh. So she's forced to murder and keep it secret.
So, that makes less sense than my hair close up. That's all I'm going to say, Pyro.
I mean, I feel like I need further evidence. When was she dosed? Was she dosed by Commodore O? Why would it be that she was dosed rather than just simply convinced? I don't know.
It's 2 ways of getting the same kind of theory, but I think it's more on the level, and I also think it would be more interesting if it's if she was convinced. If it is a biochemical agent, though, I guess she's being programmed like a robot, just kind of Asimovian. Anyway.
I mean, I guess that would be kind of cool insofar as the people who are so anti-synths are basically Borging people in order to get their agenda through. That would be an interesting twist. But I need more evidence to follow that theory. Let's see.
Hey, this is Crank Central. We appreciate your speculation.
Yeah, I don't keep the theories coming. I'm not saying don't theory, but I'm just not a fan of that one. That's all I'm saying. Let's see what else we got. We got Stephen T. Picard was a real dick with the clapping after she got. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking bad.
That was really fucked up. Let's see. Boo. A lot of people on how you say.
YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube. A lot of YouTube stands today.
Thanks for popping in, YouTube people. Why the horns instead of the live long and prosper? That's the obvious thing to do. Nah. Okay, great. Nice scissoring Vulcans, babe.
Let's talk about this. Tone of this show almost feels like they're trying to make an anti-Star Trek show.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the 90s Trek, yes, but I've said, I'm a fan of, I'm a fan of problematizing Roddenberry's Utopia because I think Roddenberry's Utopia was flawed from the get-go.
I agree with that, but most people that say that mean that communism is dumb.
I don't say that. I say that because
that's not what you mean, and yes. I agree with you. But if you listen to like the greater nerd culture and the sort of critique from within Star Trek, the way that critique tends to cut is to the right, which doesn't mean the left is immune from critique or the utopia is immune from critique. That's the task of Marxists, right? Like, but it is like, it's one of these things that in kind of like the culture wars or something,
mm-hmm.
like a lot of times can come across, at least in, I don't know, it can strangely come across as like, I don't want to say right wing, but a sort of like, not like a 90s sort of, how do I even say this? What made Star Trek so unique is that in the 1990s, exactly when other people have given up the idea of a post-scarcity economy, they most prominently celebrate it. Like, that's what makes it so fucking weird. And even though like there's so much about the next generation that is kind of conservative for the 90s even, like, but it has still that utopian spark. And a lot of people that don't like Deep Space Nine, for a lot of like reasons, I think they're wrong, but I understand why the show that is the most problematizing, but also not the most nostalgic, because I think the Deep Space Nine problematizing stuff is more true to the utopia, even if it's critical, than the sort of nostalgic aping without the post-scarcity heart. Like that stuff, I think ends up, the tributes do more damage, than the sort of.
But attributes, do you mean New Trek, or do you mean JJ, or do you mean Disco? What do you mean by that?
I mean attempts to repeat a formula. So
like the Orville.
Okay, you could say the Orville. I haven't seen the Orville, but I highly suspect that that's what it is. Yeah, like stuff like Enterprise. Frankly, like Enterprise is pretty bad. There's like elements of this in Voyager, but as I've gotten like more into Voyager, I think as a show, it's like it's like it ends up being like not bad. It's like pretty underrated.
I think the Voyager has some good characters in it. That's the thing.
Damn it! I just dropped my headphone.
But I think when you say like the anti-Star Trek, I think on some level like they're talking about maybe how all the characters are getting flipped on their head. Like Seven has been basically flipped on her head. Now she's going out there zapping, and it seems to be like very human and not Borgy at all. Picard's turning out to be an asshole. So I think like it's kind of getting the characters and just messing with all these characters that people kind of love. So I think in some level there's that going on.
So Stephen is elaborating. I fear from this show they're going to cut right with it, and I think that's an honest fear. I think if they don't cut too far right, I'll still probably like the show because I think it's well done overall. But yeah, I think if they problematize, that's the one thing that Deep Space Nine has on the newer Trek, on this show in particular. I think Discovery kind of saves it, but so far with this show, unlike Deep Space Nine, it doesn't lose touch with that spark. It just shows flaws of utopia, but not Like it doesn't just like kind of like disregard utopia. This show seems to really be like the dream is dead, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the utopia is in the past at this point. You have like a kind of shitty reactionary society now that like used to be really great and now is like a shell of its former self. You only have organizational continuity, but the values of Starfleet that live on in our protagonists are essentially gone from the organization called Starfleet.
But I think why this works for me is that within the context of the utopia, as it was set up by Roddenberry himself, it's a big ass fucking state. Like, if its leadership becomes, if they take like a conservative turn, like this is going to happen eventually. And the way it is canonically outlined, it's sooner or later, it is going to end up in the hands of someone who's conservative. It's not even fully like market restoration people. They just are like hawkish and you know, very anti-xeno-humanitarian. And this is the end result of that, I think. And I think like I think Star Trek fans that are upset by that, who believe in a Roddenberry utopia, need to deal with the fact that it was flawed from the beginning. Not because it's communist, but because it isn't.
For sure. But there's a difference between the show versus the organization taking a right-wing turn. And without the aspirational element of TNG, which allows a problematization like Deep Space Nine, that can complicate, but still ultimately be part of the universe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's until we start talking about like robot labor on Voyager that you really get a glimpse of, oh, this sounds kind of messed up. Like, or like holographic labor on Voyager or something. Like, up until then, like, you have like kind of core periphery shittiness, but the Federation overall seems like a utopian society with gray areas on the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, yeah, this is something else. And part of our sort of suffocating capitalist dystopia is the lack of alternatives. This is the major reason I ever engaged with the Bolshevik tradition, that I ever thought to become some variety of Leninist, that I ever took to looking at the Russian Revolution as some kind of model, is because it's terrifying to confront that they tried a model and it failed and they came up with something worse than, like, you know, capitalism as we know it, like, which I think maybe a lot of socialists would disagree with, but, you know, considering it basically doesn't exist, or to the degree that it still exists, it's something like China, like, shrug, like,
yeah, like
without there being like a prefigurative element in this show, it could easily end up being like feeling like right wing overall, not just like a good critique of statification or something. Most interesting critiques in culture of state and bureaucracy, they usually do come from the right in culture. They're usually not from the left. Like, sure. Sometimes you get like The Simpsons or something.
Well, the anarchists, like, in fairness,
right?
Like, what I would say is that I don't feel like I don't really feel like the show is really a critique of the Federation. I just feel like it's an obvious allegory for the United States at the moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's what they're going for. Yeah.
I think that's what they're going for. They're not going to say, "Oh, let's trash communism." It's more about like, let's talk about the current political state in the US. And the reason why the Deep Space Nine, I think, was and TNG were able to be so communist, ironically, was because communism was dead in America, and they could explicitly talk about it, and it could just feel like a kind of a fanciful sci-fi thing, and it wasn't in any way threatening. Where, like, if they were to do like a positively like commie one now, with, you know, even with social democracy on the rise with like Bernie, it's like that would be quite jarring.
CBS
would cared. It's like a fairy tale.
CBS is okay with like a vaguely left-ish criticism of the United States as an allegory for the Federation, or the Federation as an allegory for the United States, but there wouldn't be okay with a positive like communist utopia now. I could see that. I guess what I'm talking about though, more from what I've been talking about, from what I've been trying to say, I ain't trying to talk about the meta intent of the writer's room. I'm talking about within the universe is what I'm going for. This is part of the reason why I wanted to call the show Jumpsuit Utopia instead of Jumpsuit Communism, because this is never really communist ultimately. And I think within the universe, the reasons why it ends up here are baked into the utopia from the very beginning. The fact that it got as far as it did is a miracle, right? Like, it's basically plot armor. It's the only reason why it hasn't gotten to this point sooner, because every time it started to, Kirk comes saves the day, or Picard and Riker come save the day from the Nubbin bugs, or Cisco comes saves the day from the conspiracy, right? Like, it's never, in reality, with the the state as it existed, as portrayed in the show, it would have just become a dictatorship much sooner, honestly. So,
and even in this show, what we're seeing is it's not really a deep systemic critique. There's a conspiracy. Like, Rafi is right. Like, the 9/11 truthers are right. There's a deep space. There's a deep state conspiracy. Deep state nine
conspiracy.
Deep state 9.
What about Planet 7? Planet 7 fell under its own volition.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. So, we want to call it, or we want to talk about any more comments?
I think we should call it.
Call us.
Live long and prosper.
Laugh.
Live long and scissor.
Die young, bird out. Like a tornado.
There is something I don't know. There's a Star Trek